Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Scruffy Movies podcast. I'm Zach Wallace.
And I'm John Crocker.
And today, much like our recent episodes, we're going to be taking you through an old series because of something new that's coming out, and that's going to be the Men in Black movies. Now, I don't know about Crocker because I don't know, honestly, Crocker, if we've ever talked about the Men in Black movies before, but they were kind of pretty influential to me. And not just in the ways of they were good movies and I enjoyed them as a kid. And we'll get into a story of how especially Men in Black 2 kind of influenced me in a strange way. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But we're going to be talking about the Men in Black movies today. And it's one I'm excited about in honor of Men in Black International that just came out this weekend.
Yeah, this is certainly one of those franchises that I can remember like sticking out when I was a kid. This is one of the few, probably if any other than like Batman sort of movie franchises where I knew there were multiple iterations and I looked forward to the new ones coming out and I love the old ones and definitely kept them on repeat. I mean, these were super influential for me as well.
Yeah, and I guess we can actually start with that. That was something I had written down. I wrote down a few notes before hopping in here, and that was something I wrote down, which was this was one of the few things other than like cartoons on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, stuff like that. This was one of the things that I know everybody watched. Like you could make a joke that came from the Men in Black and I know that everybody would get it. It was just one of those things where like they were PG-13 movies, but they were just so influential for the time they came out that I guess everybody kind of overlooked that and were just like, yeah, it's got Will Smith in it. He's the Fresh Prince. You guys can watch it.
Yeah, and actually, you know, that surprises me that they were PG-13 movies. I never would have guessed that because I watched them so young, and I know everybody watched them when they first came out, and they did. I mean, so many references sort of slipped into the ether, you know, just into pop culture, and still remain today.
Yeah, like I like playing at the after school I went to, which was like everybody, it was like kindergarten through fifth grade. I knew that no matter who I was playing with, if I wanted to make a joke about like the neuralizer or something like that, which kindergarten kids probably shouldn't know what it was, they'd still be like, oh, haha, yeah, got it. Like everybody watched these movies and understood them and liked them.
Yeah, and they were a type of comedy that I feel like we really don't get much anymore. And I mean, Will Smith has made a lot of great movies. You know, I guess later in his career, he went more of the serious route than sticking with the comedy. But the type of comedy that was featured throughout all of these movies was really like, it wasn't necessarily on its own back then, but I feel like today, if it were to come out, it would be on its, you know, standing on its own.
How do you mean?
It's just the so like slapsticky but it was kind of kiddie too. Like it was kid friendly. It was comedy that the whole family could enjoy. And I feel like nowadays, you know, I guess back when this came out, it was like, oh god, what was the big movie with the aliens, Independence Day, that Will Smith was in? Mm-hmm. It was like that, and then this, and that would be what I consider like, you know, more of the adult only, like not really for kids. Whereas Men in Black was hilarious that the whole family could enjoy. It was sort of fresh comedy, but then it had Tommy Lee Jones that was like super deadpan at the same time. So you had this sort of like buddy comedy duo thing. And I feel like comedy movies now lack like big time. Like it's been a very long time since I've seen a great just comedy movie like that. And I don't count things like Deadpool, even though they're sort of in that same genre, because they're not kind of at the same time. Like that's more superhero-y, like slapsticky, and I want like buddy comedy, aliens invading kind of slapsticky.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the way that this theme of movie has gone, I guess, because I don't even remember the movie now, but my wife and I had sat down to go watch something, and I was like, man, it's been a long time since we've gone to see a comedy. Like, I just don't go to the movies for comedies that often anymore. Like, because, and we've talked about this before, I get jokes. Like, I know going into a Marvel movie, I'm going to laugh and have a fun time. There's going to be a lot of jokes. Like, even in the Hobbs and Shaw movie that's coming out soon, I know that one's going to be filled with jokes that I think are funny. So it's like, what's the point of going specifically to a comedy when I can go to an action movie, but it's also kind of a comedy, you know? And so I think that's kind of in the vein of where these movies have gone. Cause that was something I wrote down, was like, these movies were like, they had their story, but they were fun. Like, they had the sci-fi story, but they were fun. And I feel like nowadays these big comedies, I don't know, I guess comedy has become so subjective, which it has always been, but I feel like the nation was always kind of in touch with each other's comedic feels, and now I just feel like that is not the case anymore, at least not as well as it was. So we get our comedy from these big like Marvel movies and movies like that, and that's kind of where I think Men in Black would be if it was that. I mean, it kind of is right now. It's Men in Black International is being released as a huge like buddy comedy sci-fi movie in the summer, which is the same thing that a Marvel movie would do and is doing in like 2 weeks with Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I see him as being in different categories, and maybe this new Men in Black movie will sort of bridge that gap, and it'll sort of bring it into sort of the way that they do superhero movies now, because it will be so influenced by Marvel and everything else that's going on. But I miss the days of like Men in Black 1, like, you know, Galaxy Quest, and even like the Addams Family, and it just, I don't know, it was a different type of humor in the 90s. Home Alone like had the same type of humor to me, you know. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of goes back to that point of now comedy has become so subjective, where like we have to almost like, and there's been a few comedy movies recently where like they're so quick because audiences' attention spans are so small. They're so quick. It's like a joke a minute. And by the time it gets to the end, I'm like tired of laughing. Like, I understand that something's funny, but I just don't feel like laughing at it anymore. And so, and that doesn't dispel like the movie's not entertaining, but if you, it sounds weird to say about a comedy, but if you make me laugh too much, like if you care too much about the jokes, not enough about the story, then your movie suffers for that. It's just, it's a sketch show. It's not a movie.
Right.
And I feel like Men in Black never had a problem with doing that. I feel like they never really sacrificed the story for the jokes, but they made sure that the jokes were always a part of the story. Like when Tommy Lee Jones in the first one is interviewing the man alien outside the car, while simultaneously his wife is having the alien baby that's just like rocking Will Smith in the background, like against the car with all its tentacles and stuff, which is funny, but you're still getting the story of like, this guy's a newbie. He doesn't really know what he's doing yet. Aliens live on this world, but they're like totally harmless, basically, some of them. And so like it never sacrificed story for the jokes, but it kept the jokes in there.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was every scene there was something that would catch you off guard or make you laugh, or just something in the background. And, you know, I mean, that talks to sort of what is certainly going to get me out of all this. And that's just the world. Like, I love the world that this takes place in, where, you know, aliens are a part of everyday life, but they're sort of being disguised, and you have these, you know, badass cars and all these guns and everything else going on. And there's the, you know, is it the neuralizer or the neutralizer? It's a neuralizer.
I'm pretty sure it's Neuralizer.
Yeah, neuralizer. Like, you know, that, and what was it? It was either the second one or the third one where they use the Statue of Liberty, and turns out that's one giant neuralizer. Like, you know, so and there's flying saucers sort of hidden amongst, you know, water towers and everything else. I mean, just the whole world that this takes place in, I absolutely love. And I don't think they could have picked a better setting than New York. You know, there's that old joke that, you know, wouldn't New Yorkers even notice if aliens lived among them? I don't think they would.
Well, and I also think this movie was popular for those kind of reasons. And I especially think it's popular with kids for those kind of reasons, because when you get to be an adult, I mean, like, you think about the grand scheme of things, but you think about it more in terms of like, where's my life going to go? Am I going to meet the right person? Are we going to settle down? Are we going to have a family? Am I going to move? Like, you're so, and it's not being self-absorbed, because you literally just have to do that in order to be a successful adult. You have to like objectively think about your life sometimes and figure out what you're doing. But for kids, it's more just like, why is my mailman so weird? And this movie kind of gave an outlet for that. Instead of being like, oh, he's just this weird mailman, it's like, oh my God, what if he was an alien? And I think it really spoke to kids that way, who were able to see kind of the magic of it all. And I think it kind of is the same as like Ghostbusters and stuff like that. You know, like, oh my God, what if ghosts were real? Good thing we have these Ghostbusters guys to help fight them off. And it's like everything that goes bump in the night, the Ghostbusters can take care of it. And I think it's kind of the same with that. Every weird person or thing that goes crazy, doesn't matter. The Men in Black are there. We don't have to worry about it. And it explains the world a little bit to them.
Oh, yeah, it's that whole like, you know, secret world that takes place alongside the world that we know. And I mean, yeah, according to the second movie, all postmen are either retired Men in Black or aliens.
Yeah. And a lot of celebrities too. Do you remember the scene in Men in Black 2 where Michael Jackson was trying to be a part of the Men in Black?
No, I do not. I absolutely do not.
It's a cameo appearance. He's like calling in. He went on a mission, and he's like, "Can I please be a Men in Black now?" And the guy who's running it is like, "I'll think about it." And he's like, "Please, you could call me Agent M."
No, that is probably one of many things I've forgotten about these movies, because I do have to admit it's been quite a while since I've watched through any of these, but I need to again. I sort of want to go back and watch all three before going to see the new one.
Yeah, I agree. Me too. And I have not seen the new one yet either. I was pretty gung-ho about going to see it, and I still want to, because, and we've talked about this before too, it didn't get good critic reviews, but recently I feel like, at least within the last 2 years or so, critic reviews and audience reviews have gotten very like different from each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it gets bad scores from the critics, then I can almost guarantee it's going to be an entertaining movie.
Yeah, and I think that's, sometimes it's just fun to go like watch an entertaining movie. Like Venom had its faults, but it was a fun movie. I was extremely entertained and I had fun with it. And sometimes that's all you need to be like, wow, good movie. I had fun.
Well, I have high hopes for the new Men in Black, because at the end of the day, what I like more than anything is the world building and the creatures and everything else. And from the trailers, it already looks like we get badass cars. We've already seen lots of awesome weapons. You know, they're still dressing super clean. So we'll see what's going on. I mean, I have faith in it, because as long as the characters don't suck, then the world is already there and it's already awesome. And every storyline, I mean, every plot for every Men in Black movie has been crazy, from, what was it, Orion's Belt to the stars, or the Light of Zephyria, and then you've got the time travel in one and the third. Like, they're not exactly simple plots to follow along with. So unless they like really water it down, or just do something crazy that I'm not expecting with this movie, I'm fully prepared for it to absolutely be entertaining. You know, probably ain't gonna make me cry, and you know, ain't gonna be some crazy huge blockbuster, but at the same time, it'll probably be worth the money. At least I hope so. I mean, the audience is sort of 50-50 right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen anything about the audience. I just know like the critics and stuff. But I'm excited for it because I love Chris Hemsworth, and I especially love, I mean, like when I watched the first Thor, there were a couple like funny jokes and stuff in the first Thor, but really as Chris Hemsworth has developed the Thor character and then kind of gone outside of that to the most recent Vacation movie and Ghostbusters and now Men in Black, that dude is hilarious. Like, he's the pretty boy Norse god looking guy, but he is funny. And so I'm really excited that he's being able to branch out more from the Thor roles and stuff and be able to not just take on the like, oh yeah, he's a big hunky man, let's make him Hercules or something like that, you know, like he's able to go and do these other crazy things where he seems like back in the day in the 90s, Chris Hemsworth and all the Avengers actors are equivalent to like the Tom Cruise or Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger of their days. And you would never see those guys, maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger, but those guys almost never made a comedy ever back in the day. Like they were always like, I'm a big male, masculine man, and I can't, like, I have to either kill people or that's it. Like you can't be, I can't be seen as somebody that's funny because that's not me. That's not the image I want to put out. So I'm glad that Chris Hemsworth has been able to take that kind of bigger, like strong dude image and turn it into something where you're not expecting, because you see him and you're like, oh wow, big strong dude, and then he's like, hello, how, and starts doing something weird and you're like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but I would say too that like the action genre with like that bred the action stars of like the 90s and the 80s doesn't really exist like it used to. I mean, yeah, we're getting a new Rambo, like we've got, you know, Predator and all of that, Alien and whatnot in the past, but there's still like they will never compare to the way the world watched like true action stars in the 80s and 90s. It's just we just don't have that now. Like the action movies are replaced with these Marvel movies that tell more of a big story and aren't just, you know, action. I mean, we still get, you know, the Mission Impossibles and Tom Cruise is still doing his thing, but it's almost like he's a remnant of those days gone by. And even those movies now are not as big as they probably would have been. Mission Impossible is probably the one out from that because I think it still was a huge success. But just I feel like a lot of genres have all sort of melded together, or the MCU has just sort of laid claim to all of them and is just kind of doing a better job than everyone at making their own type of movies.
Yeah, I feel like almost the superhero movie genre has taken over this like action movie role. And even like the Fast and Furious movies, which they take themselves, I would say, semi-seriously, but they still do some crazy stuff in there where you're like, oh, come on. Like they're just big, dumb, fun movies a lot of times too.
Most
And do what?
most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. And but action movies of like the 80s and 90s, they would be cheesy, but I feel like they didn't have the common sense to know that they were being cheesy. They were just like, yeah, big masculine men punching each other. Everyone's going to love it. But now we've come into a place of almost like meta-ness where we know that this is going to be cheesy, so they just lean into it and make it funny instead. And that has worked great for the Marvel movies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to derail us too far into Marvel, but I love what you said about, you know, Thor, Chris Hemsworth coming out more as a, you know, comedic actor in some of his recent stuff. But even in Marvel, like with Ragnarok, it really started to turn, and then especially in the most recent Avengers movie, I mean, he plays a funny guy. Like he has a funny role. And especially in the recent Avengers movie, he really had to truly embrace his character. Like there was a big change, you know. So I think Marvel has acknowledged that and is throwing more his way for him to play with instead of pigeonholing him into the you know, jacked pretty boy role.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no greater person to kind of take on that mantle. Like Robert Downey Jr. was snarky, I guess I should say. But like Chris Evans is pretty, like he can be, the scenes can be funny around him and he can say things that you're not expecting to be funny. But Captain America is just not a funny guy. Kind of same with Hulk and Hawkeye and Black Widow. Like they're just not funny characters. They can say funny things, but at the end of the day, they're not, you don't see those characters go, oh man, here comes some laughs. But Thor has definitely turned into that dude where, and I mean, he can still jump in the air and call lightning down, and it's like, oh my God, yes, I love Thor. But when you see Thor walking into a room now, you're like, oh, here comes something funny.
Oh, totally. And that is one of the main reasons why I'm so pumped for whatever he ends up doing with Guardians.
Yes, that is the perfect fit for him.
It really is, because they were traditionally in the MCU, the comedic relief.
Yeah. And now Thor has kind of taken that role, and Chris Hemsworth to new extremes. He just seems to keep branching out to comedic roles. And I feel like he is going to end up being like a Harrison Ford or like a Morgan Freeman type actor. In that they might be in bad movies, but they are never bad in the movies. Like consistently, you'll see reviews that like, man, the movie's terrible, but God, that guy was really good in it. Like he was the shining star. He was hilarious. That was the same like for Ghostbusters and Vacation and all of those movies he's been in, which have not been received as warmly. The one thing it seemed like everybody agreed on was, God, Chris Hemsworth was hilarious in this. Like he was the best in this. So I think he's going to end up being one of those actors where he might not always make the best movie decisions, but he's always going to be able to bring something really like fresh and funny to stuff.
Yeah, I just think he's part of that new class of like serious actors that we're going to see for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of those may come out of the MCU in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like they definitely will. There's people now even there. Well, I guess kind of the MCU has eaten up lives and stuff, but like Chris Pratt and Dave Bautista, especially Dave Bautista, seems like he's going a big comedy route because everybody thought Drax was so funny and didn't know. And that's kind of the same as Chris Hemsworth. Nobody knew that Bautista had those like kind of comedic chops until he got Guardians. Nobody knew Chris Hemsworth could be funny until they started giving him jokes, and they're like, oh, this guy's actually pretty funny. And then now all these other studios are like, oh yeah, he is pretty funny. Why not just put him in a funny movie?
Yeah, I mean, and the Heimdall is, you know, not necessarily breaking out into comedy, but he's certainly breaking out, and I feel like making something of himself.
I feel like he was broke out before he was Heimdall. Whenever they announced Idris Elba as Heimdall, I was like, what? Really?
What was
Like,
he in?
he must be a big role. He was in all kinds of stuff, especially in the UK. Like, that dude is a huge actor.
No, well, maybe I just have not paid enough attention to the UK actor scene.
Yeah, but that guy, whenever they announced him in Thor, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Cool. But yeah, he's in like all kinds of stuff now. He definitely broke out.
For sure. Well, back to MIB.
Yeah.
So, how were the Men in Black, the three Men in Black movies, received when they were released? I mean, I obviously Men in Black 1 was a huge hit, if I recall correctly. But I feel like when I was growing up, I just assumed that they were all huge hits and that everybody absolutely loved them. But you might know more than me. Like, how were they actually received?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the first one was received pretty well. People really liked the first one. The second one got some pretty negative reviews, I think. And then I think the third one got not as good as the first one, but much better than the second one reviews.
See, I think that the first one's definitely it probably goes in order like always. Like I like the first one the most, the second one the second most, and the last one the least. But the last one's not bad. I mean, I like it. It's just such a departure. Like time travel is one of those things that you just kind of got to be in the mood to watch that movie that day.
Yeah, and that kind of speaks to like I've just seen so many time travel things that like I know all the tropes and everything of it. So I'll see something that like maybe the general audience won't know, but I'll go, "Oh, I see what you're doing. Gotcha. Time travel." Like all these little things and stuff. But I honestly think that the second one is probably my favorite. And so that speaks a little bit to what I was talking about at the beginning of this movie being so influential to me. Men in Black 2 was the first DVD I ever owned.
What?
Yeah, my full screen edition that I still have in my collection. No matter how many movies I end up getting or if I upgrade it to Blu-ray or anything, I will never get rid of it. It was Christmas, like 2003, maybe something like that. But I got a PlayStation 2 for Christmas, and so that was technically my first DVD player. Everything up until then was just VHS. And so, along with my PlayStation 2, I got Men in Black 2 because I loved the first Men in Black, and I loved Men in Black 2, even though I hadn't seen the movie yet. I had like read the novel and got toys and all that stuff. I was like super excited about it. So Christmas morning, I got a PlayStation 2 and Men in Black 2. And it was the first DVD that I ever owned.
Dang, did you get any did you get any games or did you only get a DVD?
No, I'm pretty sure I got The Simpsons Road Rage and Gran Turismo 3.
Nice. Yeah, that would have been about Gran Turismo 3 time.
Yeah, I think that was like about the haul. And I remember watching Men in Black 2 and being so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, it's so different. Special features, what is that even? Like, it was like such a mind-blowing experience. I couldn't believe it. And then I remember a little bit later, I was watching like I think it was Jeepers Creepers 2, and I accidentally pushed my remote or something, and I figured out how to turn the subtitles on, which I didn't know that subtitles were a thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what he said just popped up on the TV. I was like, no way, no way. Like like there's so many mind-blowing experiences with DVDs, but my first one ever was Men in Black 2.
Yeah, I remember the first time I put a DVD in and was just like, what? Like, there's a menu. Like, I got to hit play. What are these other things? Like, let me play around over here. And for a while, I would go like look through all the menus and see what all was there before I would even play the movie for the first time. It was so crazy being like, the future is now.
Oh yeah, I would watch all of the special features before I watched the movie, which is stupid because the special features just ruin the movie for you. But I remember a little bit after that, I think like 2004, so it couldn't have been much after that, maybe like 2 years or so. I got Dumb and Dumber When Harry Met Lloyd on DVD for my birthday. And all of my friends were like, yeah, let's watch it because they were all spending the night. And I was like, yeah, let's watch the special features first, though. And they were like, what? No, why would we do that? And I was like, yeah, all the deleted scenes, the gag reel. Let's watch all the interviews. And they were like, no, that's going to ruin the movie. Let's just watch the movie, then we can watch that stuff. And I was like, no, you guys don't understand.
You have to absorb all the special things first.
Trying to convince them to watch the deleted scenes of a movie they hadn't seen yet.
Well, speaking of Men in Black 2 and scenes, one of my favorite scenes from any Men in Black movie is in that movie, and it's that tiny like world in a locker in the bus station, or what was it, train station locker, and then it's revealed to you at the end of the movie that we are nothing but inside of a locker, in a giant alien train station. So I love that. It's like turtles all the way down is one of my favorite sayings. And that has stuck with me forever.
Yeah, that was another thing too, where I was always like, I don't know. I was kind of strangely comforted by it for some reason. I was always like, well, like nothing bad can happen to us. I know because I saw Men in Black and we're in that guy's sack of marbles.
Right. It's a sack of marbles.
It was like, exactly. I don't know. It was just like, it was weirdly comforting. I was like, he was playing marbles. Like, and then if there was big thunder or like earthquakes and stuff, I was like, I bet he's playing marbles again.
I don't think I took it that seriously, but it definitely spoke to me and I'll remember it forever.
Yeah. Movies to me, when I was like, I believed in movies. Like, I distinctly remember watching Toy Story 1 in the theater. So I couldn't have been more than 3, but I remember going to the theater to see it. And then at the end, my mom was like, okay, let's leave. And I was like, no, why would we leave? The toys still have to come down and walk out. When they walk out up the aisles, I want to see them and say, hey, like, I thought that it was real and that they were just performing like on the stage for us. Like, I thought I was at a play almost instead of a movie.
Yeah, I definitely don't think I can recall any movie-going experiences where I was young enough to think that. The earliest movie I remember seeing was, I think it was Lion King? Sure, something like that, or Jungle Book maybe, one of those Disney animated movies. And I definitely remember going to see the original Toy Story as well. But I think you might not have been quite over the threshold yet where you knew what was really going on.
No, I definitely remember my mom being like, "Okay, movie's over, let's go." And I was like, "No, why, I want to meet Buzz. Why would I leave? They haven't left yet. They're still behind the screen waiting for the credits to finish rolling."
Oh, what's that sound mean?
That sound means it's halftime.
Whoop.
So if you haven't listened to the show before, halftime is the part of the episode where Crocker and I take a break from the conversation we're having. We talk about recent movie trailers we've seen, movie news, things we're excited about. It's also been the part of the show where we've been giving away free digital copies. We're continuing that this week with the Marine Collection. So this is going to actually be 4 movies in one: the Marine 2, the Marine 3, and the Marine 4. And I know those are just like some straight to DVD WWE movies, but they're actually not bad, especially 3 and 4, and even 5 and 6, which is not part of this collection but is still in the Marine franchise, are pretty good movies, like for just straight to DVD action movies. But if you guys want to be entered to win all 4 of the first Marine movies, just comment the code word Cena below on the YouTube video you're listening to right now, or direct message me at Scruffy Movies on Instagram. Again, the code word is Cena, and you'll be entered to win the first 4 movies for free in the Marine franchise.
Yeah, I was about to ask, isn't that the one with John Cena?
Yeah, John Cena is in the first one, and then Ted DiBiase is in the second one, and then The Miz takes over from 3 on. He's the Marine.
I feel like I've seen the first one, and I feel like I saw it on Netflix when it was there for a little while, but I have not seen the rest. So this would actually be a good one for me to win.
Yeah, see, you should enter. What kind of favoritism would that be if I let you win?
Not possible.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't have a whole heck of a lot for halftime this week, but I was extremely, extremely excited to get to this point in the podcast because I saw a trailer for Dr. Sleep. Have you seen this?
Yeah, that's the first one on my halftime list too.
So this, for those that don't know, is, from what I can tell, it's like The Shining Part 2, and it's about the son from the Overlook Hotel. And I had no idea this was going to be a thing. I had no idea they were planning it, making it, or anything along those lines. And when I was watching the trailer, I was like, "Ah, that's weird. They're definitely stealing some stuff from The Shining there." And then it just kind of got like more on the nose, and I was like, "Wait a second, what am I actually watching? What exactly is this trailer?" And finally, it dawned on me that I guess this is a bit of a sequel, which is going to be awesome. So I'm super pumped about that.
Yeah, that's Doctor Sleep was actually a novel that came out a few years ago, and it is a direct sequel to The Shining. And I actually saw, because I guess I'll just talk about my kind of halftime version of this. I saw that the filmmakers were also saying that they wanted it to be a direct sequel to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is the original Shining with Jack Nicholson. But Stephen King hated that movie. He hated that adaptation. So they went in to pitch it to him, and they were like, "Listen, we want to be faithful to the novel, and we want to tell the story of Danny Torrance that you wanted to tell, but people know this from the movie. And if we're making another movie, we have to connect it back to Stanley Kubrick's." And apparently they pitched him on a lot of stuff, like how it would connect together. And he approved everything and was like, "Yep, that's okay. That sounds good. Like, sounds good." So it has Stephen King's blessing of his original story, but also being a sequel to The Shining. So yeah, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about that one. And I didn't realize that he hated the first one because it was
Yeah.
such a success.
He has, I think there's been maybe 2 adaptations like ever of a Stephen King work that he's actually liked.
Mm.
Hated everything else.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of those areas where those who read the novels will be in the know before everyone else.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Awesome. And then the other trailer I've seen this week that I was pretty excited about in this sort of like the Marine franchise is actually Angel Has Fallen, which is another another installment in the, I guess you would just call it the Has Fallen franchise. Is that what it's going by? I love those movies. I think they're great. Anytime I'm in the mood for like an action movie, it just so happens that for at least once, it never fails that I'll go to Netflix and I'll be like, okay, I'm in the mood for an action movie. And at least 3 out of the past 5 times I've done that, there has been a new Has Fallen movie on the Netflix feed, and I've selected it, and I have not been let down. And the trailer makes this one look awesome. So I'm super pumped about it. And
Yeah, I actually did. I liked both of the Has Fallen movies before, so I'm very curious about this one. I hope it's as good as the other two.
Oh, there's at least 3, right?
No,
There's
only 2.
Olympus. There's what are the other?
Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, and then now Angel Has Fallen.
I must be confusing another movie then.
I think you might be thinking of White House Down, which is basically the exact same story as Olympus Has Fallen, but it has Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. You are correct.
Yeah.
Well, they should just go ahead and absorb that movie into their universe.
Hey, we know you guys told the same movie and you had a different president, but yeah, why not?
Sure thing.
Sure, why not?
And that concludes my halftime.
Okay, so I had Dr. Sleep, like I said, was the first one on my list, but we kind of already talked about that. We also got another trailer for Frozen 2, which is one that I was not really looking forward to. I was just like, yeah, cool, the sequel to Frozen. I'll catch it when it comes to Redbox or something, But the first trailer actually got me very interested. It seemed like a much darker story and a different story than they told the first go round. And then this second trailer was a little bit more about the story, and it seems very interesting too. So I'm actually getting a little more pumped up for Frozen 2 than I thought I was going to be, because I thought the first one was just okay. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as everyone had hyped it up to be. But this one looks pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited for it.
Well, the first one took over the world for like 3 years.
Yes.
So I would assume that this one will do the same.
Yes,
I'm with you. I did not expect it to do that.
Yeah. Another recent announcement, we didn't get a trailer for it, but we got a poster, is they are remaking Blumhouse, who remade the most recent Halloween. They made The Purge. They made Get Out. Basically, any modern horror movie that you can think of right now, they probably had something to do with it. They are remaking Black Christmas, which is a classic slasher movie from the 70s, and it actually is kind of cited along with Halloween as starting almost the slasher franchise, kind of taking it out of the hands of Psycho, where it was, and making it more of what we know today. And it had a remake called Black Xmas, which is still Black Christmas. It was just stylized that way in 2003, 2004, around then, maybe 2006. But that one was actually really good. I enjoyed that one a lot. And now they just announced a couple days ago, they were like, yeah, we're remaking it again. It's coming out December of this year. So I don't know if they've been working on it quietly or not, but I'm super excited for it. I feel like we don't get enough Christmas horror movies, and those are like so few and far between. And now this one, made by this company that's made so many successful movies in the past, I'm extremely excited to see what they bring to it.
I don't think I've seen a single Black Christmas movie.
They're good. Something for you, it's not really for you, but Netflix had announced a while ago, but we actually just got a first trailer for it this week. There is a spin-off animated show to the Fast and Furious franchise that's going to be on its way, and we just got a trailer for it. It's called Fast and Furious Spy Racers, and it's about Dom's cousin Tony Toretto and his group of like high school friends that are tasked by the government to infiltrate a like undercover worldwide evil organization through being like spies and race car drivers.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had no idea that was even going to be a thing.
Yeah, so that's on its way. And then much like last week when I was talking about the Jurassic Park series, I thought that this was going to be kind of a weird animation style. Like I wasn't sure how it was going to be married together. but the trailer they released wasn't anything story. It was just like a car driving, but it looks like super kind of realistic. So it might end up being kind of worth the watch, at least to check it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what I think about the fact that they've already just gone ahead and said, "Oh, we're working for the government," so it's going to be like huge, like Fast Five, Six, 7 type of story instead of like 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, and they're 100% like it said like high school teenagers. So I don't know how or why they're like, oh yeah, this group of teenage kids come work for the government. But I mean, I guess you're probably not supposed to ask too many questions about a Fast and Furious property anymore.
Well, that's stereotypical answer with animated series anyway. With animation, it's always high school kids or middle school kids.
Yeah. But I'm interested to check it out. I mean, it's on Netflix, so it's not like I'm going to have to go out of my way to see it. When I log on Netflix and it's there, I'll probably watch it.
And when is it dropping?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, actually.
Okay. Well,
at least within the year. Probably around the same time as Hobbs and Shaw, I would think, to catch some of that interest.
probably. Well, that's awesome. I look forward to that.
Yeah. And then finally, I know a show that influenced me a lot as a kid. I don't know about you, but Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was actually supposed to be getting a movie, but it's been pushed off a little bit, is getting a revival series this October in the form of, I think they just said like 6 episodes or something like that. But I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark as a kid. And I think that we are severely lacking in that kind of content in children's entertainment right now. Like, scary stuff, but for kids. I feel like that just doesn't exist anymore. So I'm super excited that it's coming back, and it's actually coming back with the Jeremy Ray Taylor, who played Ben in the most recent It movie. He's going to be a part of the Midnight Society.
Super cool.
Yeah, so I'm extremely excited about that. Very excited.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's lacking. Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? We had so much good stuff. I mean, I would occasionally watch like Tales from the Crypt and stuff too, even though I'm pretty sure my parents did not approve of that. But I loved it. I loved those sort of like short, scary stories. Which, of course, now I guess the closest thing we get is like Black Mirror, but that's not like scary. That's not like horror. That's more like surreal, cerebral kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's definitely not for kids.
And it's definitely not for kids.
Yeah. But that's it for me.
Awesome. All right. Well, where do we leave off with the Men in Black?
I think we were just talking about DVDs. Well, I guess kind of going along with transitioning out of that, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark conversation, I also kind of credit Men in Black with me being into horror movies and stuff as much as I am now, because that definitely started to introduce the horror element a little bit earlier, because the villains were always like fun villains and stuff, but they were scary sometimes. Like, especially the cockroach dude in the first movie, that guy's scary, especially for kids. And so I kind of credit these movies as being like, they're scary, but they were always fun. So it kind of took the edge off of being scared. So you were able to go on more of like a big roller coaster than just like, oh, fun movie, but I'm not scared of the monster. Like, I don't really care if the monster wins. Like, I don't want the monster to win, but like, I don't have anything against the monster because it just looks like a regular person, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I definitely remember being scared a little bit by some of the monsters, but I would say, well, yeah, I would say that it probably opened the door more for like sci-fi stuff for me more than anything. But realistically, I was already all up in some sci-fi at that point in my life by the time Men in Black came out.
I was not. It took me a while to get into it.
I basically grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek and everything else. And then from there, all other things are bred. You know what movie I always put in the same category as the Men in Black movies for some reason?
What was that?
Evolution.
Oh my God, I love Evolution. I was thinking about Evolution, writing notes for this, because I wrote down
animated series because I loved the Men in Black animated series when I was a kid, and I had that video game. And then as soon as the Men in Black animated series would go off, WB Kids, the Evolution animated series would come on. It was called Evolution Alienators Continue, and it was awesome.
God, I don't remember the animated series. I just remember the movie.
Yeah, they had an animated series where basically it just went full force into it. Basically made them the Ghostbusters, but for aliens. They just went out and like shot aliens every day.
God, I think it even had a very similar like birth in the backseat of a car scene that like we got in Men in Black, didn't it? I can't remember now.
Ooh, I'm trying to remember, but the fact that I can't remember just speaks to your point. Like it totally could have been. Yes.
Yes, totally could have been. Yeah, God, that was another movie with that same like type of humor that I miss. I don't know. It's so hard to explain.
Yeah, I remember. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but it's the same as this one where it's like serious situations and it doesn't sacrifice story for the comedy, but there's always jokes being made. I remember laughing super hard in Evolution where the two bigger guys who were kind of played as like the dummies of the movie, you know, in the very opening scene, they're like taking their class down to this where the meteor crash or whatever it was to like take samples and stuff. And they don't want to go down the hole. So they're just like standing outside of it watching. And one guy just almost slips down and falls. And it definitely like the fall would have like broken his legs or maybe killed him. And they just kind of start giggling. He's like, oh, I almost fell. He's like, yeah, you almost ate it on that one. And they're just like giggling about it. And I don't know why. That scene has always stuck with me. But that's like the type of comedy that you don't get anymore. Like you just don't get these big fun movies with comedy in it. And except for really like the Marvel movies and stuff is like the only logical conclusion I can draw to a modern day media thing.
God, whatever happened to Orlando Jones?
He was on, the last I saw him, he was on a TV show called Sleepy Hollow for like 2 seasons, and then he left. I don't know what he's doing now.
The last thing I remember him in was Drumline.
Yeah, yeah, he was huge in like the 2000s. Kind of the same with Sean William Scott, who was also in Evolution. He was gigantic in the late 90s, early 2000s, and he has basically disappeared.
Yeah, he always kind of played that same type of character. You know, the American Pie, Dukes of Hazzard-y kind of that guy.
Kind of like the dummy douchebag, but with a good heart.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's a little bit kind of what he played. He's not really a douchebag in Evolution, but he's definitely like a dummy, but with a good heart.
Yeah, totally.
But God, Evolution, that's such like a perfect comparison. Those movies, definitely now, I guess like quick pitch this, I would love to see a Men in Black Evolution crossover movie.
Oh, me too. I think they might be too similar. Like I think they might, like instead of a crossover movie, it would just be like, surprise, we've all been in the same universe all along.
Yeah, I feel like they totally could. Like they 100% could be.
Absolutely.
And Men in Black, they're just like, oh, well, you guys look like you had that one handled, so we didn't try and help.
Yeah, my quick pitch would be just the fact that I want to see more awesome guns. I want to see more of this world. I want to see more aliens. So I think what I need is a TV show. I need an awesome like HBO or Netflix or something series where they really just go deep and explore and get crazy. You know, I've said on this show 1,000 times that when I finally grow up, I would like to have like a movie collection of like props, I guess. And I think the Noisy Cricket and the Neuralizer are firmly on that list.
Oh yeah, those would be awesome to have. I think a TV show would actually be a really good, like, because there would always be new aliens. There could always be new Men in Black agents. Like you could make a TV show and it just go on for years.
Exactly.
Did you hear whenever they were looking into stuff about the potential, it was going to be called MIB 23, and it was going to be the next Jump Street movie where Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill joined the Men in Black?
No.
Yeah. So apparently that was a thing that was being pitched that nobody really knew about until Sony got hacked in 2014 because of the interview. I don't think they ever said it was North Korea, but everybody's basically like, yeah, it was North Korea. But yeah, that was apparently something that was being talked about. So
that was going to be the next iteration of Jump Street. Was Schmidt and Jenko were going to be joining in the Men in Black.
Damn.
Yeah, and
That
I
would be
was
awesome.
like, yeah, that's kind of, I was like, when I first heard it, I was like, that's a stupid idea. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, but damn, I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, they're the right kind of funny, you know?
Yeah, it's just like, I guess it would be so like tonally different from the first two Jump Street movies. And I think that's a producer recently came out, I think even maybe for like talking about Men in Black International. And he was like, yeah, there was a bunch of different versions of the script. He's like, it ended up just being, though, like they couldn't find the right area of crossover between Men in Black and Jump Street. He's like, it just ended up being a Men in Black movie, but with the Jump Street guys. Like, it wasn't a Men in Black Jump Street crossover. It was just Men in Black, but the Jump Street guys were there.
I mean, I'd still love to see it.
Yeah, I would love to see it too. I kind of wish it would come out, but I don't think it's ever going to now.
Awesome.
Well,
what else you got?
That wraps us up.
Yeah.
That's all. That's honestly all I had. Like we said before, I feel like we say this every time. We always say like, I don't got much, but then we crank out an hour, like no matter what.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
We always find something to talk about. But I guess that about wraps us up here. Thank you for listening. Please enter to win the free digital copies of the first 4 Marine movies. If you want to do that, just comment below the code word Cena or direct message me at Scruffy Movies on Instagram. Please follow us on Instagram at Scruffy Movies.
And Crockalicious.
And we thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.